Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. To bring in a new what if called, What If Tucker Was in Kaiju No.8 Part 1. Link down in the description of the fan fiction of this, what if. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this isn't a scam. Chapter 1, Idiotic, Soldier from Blood Gulch to Kaiju. My name is Levernius Tucker, also a pervert, but however also a former ex-member of Blue Team. Tucker said, narrating to himself a flashback is happening of his previous life as a simulation. In Soldier in Blood Gulch Alpha. You can say my life is just an average person who is nothing more, nothing less. Sure, I had just an average day life as a normal person would. Tucker said, continue narrating until images of him getting pregnant and also getting blasted into the future. Including defeating Wyoming and also Tech's ship blowing up. Things started to go crazier from here on out with a lot of complete whack-ass and misadventures happening. Including time that they had to bust Church out of the prison of a military security place. Including the time that they had to fight against the army of Techs and then they were crash-landed on the planet known as Chorus. While also stopping the Civil War, including taking down Malcolm Hargrove, and one including everything else was a simulation from Epsilon. And he was also a puppet of the meta. Thanks to Sigma, however, all that came to an end, and yet in the end everything went back to normal. However, it all came to an end. Things weren't actually the same anymore. Griff left Red Team, saw Sarge was dead because of me, and well, everyone went up their separate ways. And for me, I was alone in Blood Gulch with Simmons, nothing else to do, to be honest. It felt nothing more but a boring dull life. Tucker said, narrating to himself, standing on top of Blue Base alone. Until something changed when a flyer appeared. Tucker said, narrating when the moment the flyer hit his leg that he was wearing his Spartan armor. He was curious and picked it up and looked at it, curious and picked it up, and when the moment he saw a flyer saying something about a defense force, fighting against monstrous beings known as kaijus. Finally, something I can actually do for once. Maybe this could be my start of a new life for me. Tucker said, narrating to himself when the moment the teleporter showed Japan, and he decided to enter it. However, I thought I was actually going to be getting myself a spot in the defense force. However, let's just say my life was nothing more but a shit show. It became me, it's more shitty that I had to join a cleanup crew. However, I met someone else who also wanted to join the defense force. His name was Habino Kafka. Sure, the guy was an old dude, but so was I, but I'm more of a young adult and had more combat experience. But still, it was a shitty job, a shitty payment and a shitty apartment that I had to pay rent for. Tucker said, narrating the events of him cleaning up corpses of monsters without his Spartan armor. Even trying not to gag or throw up from the horrific smell of the dead corpses. And was in his apartment looking a bit dull. While also taking a shower from the horrendous stench from the dead corpus of the monsters he had to clean up. God damn it, why must my life suck so bad? What kind of fucked up luck do I even have to deserve all this? Tucker said, yelling in anger and frustration. Hey, shut up. Some of us are trying to get sleep. One of the neighbors said, next door. Screw you, Tucker said, while falling onto his crappy bed and sighing. God damn it all. I bet everyone else is having a good time. And yet here I am just getting a shitty job, cleaning up monsters and also getting a bit of a shitty payment. Fuck my life. Why must my life have to suck so badly? Tucker said in annoyance. While drifting out to sleep. It was the next day. Tucker was driving not just a pretty mid-car while Kafka was also driving the scooter, getting to the cleaning up receptionist area. After arriving, while clocking in. Until the boss of the cleaning group, amongst some teenager boy around his 17s named Ichikawa with somewhat white hair, was joining Ichikawa the clean-up crew. Tucker was rather surprised for someone young as him to actually join the clean-up crew. And it was actually his first day on the job. Which, well, the boss decided to actually give the newbie to Tucker and Kafka. Which Tucker in mentally screams his mind. He's insisting himself for shitty luck. But decide not to do anything stupid. However, Ichikawa decided to think on his own, which made both Tucker and Kafka pissed off even more beyond anything. However, let's just say the boss with the glasses decided to actually give Kafka and Tucker with Ichikawa to actually clean up some of the corpses that had to have shit in them. And when they were done, when they were done they were actually in a playground having their lunch. And Ichikawa kind of felt a bit nausea from the smell of the corpses, not able to eat his food, while Tucker gone used to the smell of dead corpses, seen as it wasn't usually for him after all. He got used to things back on chorus, not to mention including him becoming the meta. And all Kafka and Tucker tried to tease Ichikawa only for them to also try not to vomit. And it only to force it down their throats. And Tucker was surprised seeing that Ichikawa cannot throw him a vitamin juice pack. And however Kafka tried to actually force to put nose plugs in Ichikawa's nose, which Tucker can help out laugh. However, almost reminded him of the time on Blood Gulch also at his shenanigans, as if however they continued doing more monster work until a spider kind you. The spider with a human-like kaiju face on it was actually heavily injured both Tucker and Kafka. Tucker cursed himself seeing that he'd never had his Spartan armor with him or his weapons. Seeing that it made the situation a lot worse, he should have brought it with him. But he realized what exactly would his gun do against something like that. Perhaps his sword can actually cut through it, after all it was made up plasma. But however, as they were about to be eaten, luckily in the nick of time the self-defense forced her division was able to take care of the spider monster. Thanks to Kafka's childhood friend, Mina Ashro, alongside the rest of the others, including a white tiger alongside her, which Tucker was kind of rather unknown how to feel about this. However, after when they were in the hospital treating their wounds. However, Tucker and Kafka were about to actually get some sleep. A flying kaiju, while making the two of them actually appeared in front of their faces. Tucker and Kafka didn't know how to reply to this kind of scenario. Only for the flying kaiju to slingshot like a fly directly into their mouths. And Tucker tried to, however only for them. Only for both of them actually have more like a seizure. Each Kafka tried to actually remove the curses only for two humanoid-like kaiju. However, Kafka was more reptilian-like, however Tucker's was more like, well, not skately, but more like bio-organic. Instead of having a mount, it was more like with a faceplate and a visor. About look at each Kawa until they looked at the reflection of the glass. It took some time for them to process, only for comedic. For the trio to completely freak out when the doctor came in and see this. The old man doctor came in and see this. The human Kafka were completely fucked. Mina alongside the 3rd Division were getting ready to go. The old man doctor was freaking out, including the trio was also freaking out. Kafka said to Kafka in his kaiju form to actually do a smile. However, Tucker couldn't help but felt like that was going to be the biggest and most incredible stupidest idea in the whole world. However, Kafka in his kaiju form was about to do a smile only for the old man doctor to actually faint. "You just made it worse," Tucker said in his kaiju form, even though he doesn't have a mount. Only for Kafka in his kaiju form to run up and check up on the old man doctor. Only for Tucker in his kaiju form noticed that only for destroying half of the wall with little amount of force, which completely freaked the trio out even more. Even Tucker was completely surprised by that. "Oh crap, that actually happened to me. I'm 100% a full-on kaiju." Kafka said in his kaiju form, freaking out. However, many of the other doctors, however Tucker and Kafka in their kaiju form peeked out, only for one of them were completely caught off guard to see a kaiju, which they literally went back into the room. "Sir, they call the defense force, we should run now." Ichikawa said, "Let me take care of opening the windows." Tucker said in his kaiju form, running directly at the windows, however only for him to actually didn't realize his full kaiju strength ripped open completely, brutally ripping open the windows, destroying even more property damage. "Oh fuck me, I guess I never realized this transformation I have can be so freaky." Tucker said, even more shocked, however only for one of the females to scream, which the trio decided to jump out of the window. However, while they're running, let's just say Kafka with this crazy transformation. Even Tucker was completely caught off guard by this. And well, let's just say Kafka in his kaiju form did some kind of alien reference with a tongue with sharp mouths. Sharp teeth, eating the burr alive, and however was also peeing out of his kaiju nipples, and including Tucker, however felt like he wanted to pee as well, but also peeing from his kaiju dick. Oh god, that was mostly fucked up. However, a red panda couldn't help but was rather amused by Tucker in his kaiju form. Both Kafka and Tucker in their kaiju forms freaking out of it. However, somewhere else the same Kai spider kaiju in a human face was about to kill a daughter and her mother. Until, well, let's just say both Kafka and Tucker were about saved, did a full-on one-punch man style, pushing the spider away with incredible force, which Tucker, even though he doesn't have a face, his jaw dropped. Even his heart sank times infinity. He couldn't have imagined the strength he had doing a one-punch. However, Tucker and Kafka in their kaiju form realized that the girl's afraid, and, well, let's just say Kafka tried doing something, but, well, let's say Tucker bonked Kafka in their kaiju form. But, well, let's say Tucker bonked Kafka in the head, trying not to estimate the situation works, which Tucker gently pat the young girl and decide to actually lift up the debris, keeping her mother. However, while the spider, you could say kaiju, was getting back up for round 2, and, well, let's just say Tucker and did a complete combo of a super one-punch man style, obliterating the spider kaiju, causing it to be complete monster pace of both bones, blood and flesh. And blood and all over the place. Tucker in mind was completely screaming, however amazing and also completely scary his strength was. Even Kafka in his kaiju form was completely eyes widened in complete horror. Kafka, remembering his childhood with Mina, was able to transform back, showing revealing half of his human face. Even Tucker was able to do it. However, the next day Kaiju 8, including Kaiju 15 or 19, was spotted in the news, which, well, Ichikawa was actually heard about the news to clean. The rest of the cleanup monster cleanup crew also realized as well, but I think that they didn't care as much. However, luckily Ichikawa got letters for both Kafka and Tucker that they were literally getting ready for the entrance exam to join the defense force, which, well, let's just say Tucker was able to have some control, but, well, let's just say for Kafka he was able to, well, have a bit of some trouble with his transformation. After all, no one wants to spot him after reading the letters of, well, for them to actually get ready for the entrance exam. Tucker couldn't help but finally be happy for once. Yes, finally it's my time to shine, no more actually cleaning up some dead monster corpse, Tucker said with excitement. Hell yeah, you could say that again, my brother, Kafka said. For both of them to fist bump each other. Kafka was about to actually open water, only for him to transform and literally break the water bottle. Ichikawa scolded him. However, let's just say it was the next day only for Kafka and how inside a van. However, many other participants were also, including some military forces as well, especially the JDF. Red-haired dude in a motorcycle, including a guy running as well well-built. However, let's just say things are about to get on a rough start when some rich girl who acts like a complete total rich bitch from a certain RWBY character of a certain Weiss. But however, this the end of chapter 1. My first Kaiju No.8 crossover with red vs blue character Levernus Tucker, and yes, the kaiju is actually inspired by the Gridman, also known as the Kaiju Anti. Which Tucker sometime later in the future chapter will actually be known as Grid Knight, the anti-hero of the defense force. Which Tucker and Kafka are actually kaijus. That is all to say, folks. Chapter 2, Exam Incident. As every single participant was getting ready for being part of the 3rd Division of the Defense Force, Tucker and Kafka did feel nervous, realizing if they did transform, then the both of them will be utterly screwed as hell. Meaning that they ought to play things easily. Let's just say everything else, physical exercises such as push-ups, doing lifts up, was hard for Kafka. However, well, you could say, for Tucker as trained in the Chorus trilogy, Tucker was able to do way more and was able to get a little bit ahead of everyone, while Kafka was way behind. Come on dude, just cheer up for once in your life, Tucker said to Kafka. Oh, that's easy for you to say. You always got way more better training, and I'm just some old dude who's at my limits, Kafka yelled at Tucker. Well, at least you're not giving up, Tucker said to Kafka, which Kafka stood there in silence, but realizing he never gave up once, meaning that he still had a chance. However, the blonde pigtail rich bitch came up and tried bragging to the group. Kikaru Shinomiya. Well, it certainly seems that the old man really knows how to fail a bit, Kikaru Shinomiya said, mocking directly at Kafka, which Kafka decided to actually make a bit of a scene for, only for Kikaru Shinomiya's bodyguards actually beat the shit out of Kafka, which Tucker decided not to actually do anything. After all, he realized even if he would, he decided not to say any, while others kind of had sweat troubles. Including the red hair guy with sharp teeth. Who the hell is this guy? The red hair and sharp teeth guy said. However, Kikaru Shinomiya looked at Tucker weirdly, which Tucker kind of felt a bit He was a little nervous and intimidated by her. Is there something wrong? No, there's something off about you. You're rather an enigma to people around here. Do I have to admit there's something off about you? Kikaru Shinomiya said, which Tucker felt a bit uncomfortable and nervous. And what seems to be the problem? It seems that you're just dead weight. Kikaru Shinomiya said. Only for a slap, which Tucker was caught off guard and cleaned everyone, inclining the bodyguards as well. A tall man, brown skin, including an X mark on his face, inclining with a ponytail, giving up a look directly at Kikaru Shinomiya. I would recommend you better be quiet. After all, we should be more focusing on the exam instead of pickering. The man with the X mark scar on his face said. Tucker couldn't help but felt there was something familiar about this guy. Like he was giving up a vibe. Something about it almost felt familiar. He couldn't help but put his finger on where exactly he's seen this guy before. However, the bodyguards rushed him only for the man with the X scar on his face swiftly took down the two bodyguards, surprising everybody, especially Tucker was able to observe the movement. He couldn't help but had this feeling that he almost reminded him of the other mercenary with Felix. He just couldn't help but the feeling that it was him. Kikaru Shinomiya bodyguards are weak. Unlike you, at least I took into some special training alongside mercenaries. In a battlefield, always be careful if you're hit by friendly fire. The man with the X scar on his face said, while walking off. Sheesh, that guy is kind of cold. One participant said. Yeah, but I guess he's kind of the mercenary type. People like him just don't take things easily. They're always trained specially. Participant 2 males said. That's all. I guess someone like him would create experience, especially that guy right there with military training, deserved to be in the Special Defense Force. The man with the X scar on his face was a very strong force. Sometimes later it was getting ready for time to fight. However, with their suits, including every single one of the participants put on their suits, luckily thanks to them giving him incredible strength, all the participants realized that Tucker and the other guy were nowhere to be seen. Yeah, where the hell is the new guy? One participant said, only to hear middle heavy footsteps. From within the front corridor came a man wearing high-tech armor that's way more advanced compared to the people wearing the defense force, which made everyone had their jaws to drop. However, when the moment he took off the helmet, their jaws even dropped even more comedically. Seeing he was actually Tucker wearing his Spartan armor mixed with someone that's mixing with the self-defense force armor. Don't mind me, after all, this is just fought in my own equipment to merge with the self-defense force equipment. Damn, look at the armor. Pretty cool and something science fiction like. The participant was 10 said. No kidding. It almost looks like from a video game. Participant was 12 said. Damn, I never knew he had that kind of equipment to win him. And the military Kafka said to himself in surprise. I guess in the United States, people like him really do have that kind of special equipment treatment. Ichikawa said, in astonishment. However, another armored individual turned from invisible in front of everybody, which made everyone almost had a freaking heart attack. Even Tucker was completely shocked. Wait, hold on a second, Locust, Tucker said in complete shock. Yeah, so what Locust said behind armor, which made some of the contestants intimidated by him, including the skull mask helmets he was wearing. Geez, look at his armor, he almost wants to make Kaiju afraid of him. No kidding, custom-made armor from America can also be that kind of intimidating for terrorists as well. The participant 18 said. All the participants with their power suits including Tucker, which is power Spartan armor, including Locust Spartan power armor, had to be seen what level they're on. Ichikawa got level 3, Kikaru has level 19. And well, let's just say, shockingly, Tucker's was on level 20. While Locust was on 35. Bitch, what the fuck? Tucker said in complete shock. It seems my combat and mercenary experience seems to really pay off. Locust said nonchalantly. God damn it, man. How could you be above me? Tucker said. What can I say? This exam isn't going to be easy, so try to give it your all. Locust said calmly. Oh, I will give my all. Tucker said, frustratedly. Then quit whining and bitching. Locust said. Hey now, quit trying to look down on me. Tucker said, even more frustrated. Who says I was looking down on you? Locus said. As the two begin to argue, something couldn't help but snicker and laugh at their comedic skirmish. The Soshiro Hashina couldn't help but laugh at these two individuals. Oh man, where the heck do we find these two nutcases? Soshiro continued laughing at the two. After some time later, everyone was at the battlefield. Meaning the exam was ready to begin. Tucker got on his energy sword, which surprised many. However, explained that he built it himself. He was getting down many kaijus. However, only for Kikaru to take on multiple even more headshots completely. Locus, being more the sniper type, equipped it to turn to a sniper rifle mode, keep on shooting directly at many of kaijus and yokaijus as well, killing them in a process. Damn it, I'm not going to lose, not by a long shot. Tucker said, running directly, killing off many kaijus and yokaijus. While Kafka was having a bit of trouble, he was on a 0%, which Tucker knew that he can't reveal his secret to anybody. Kafka was able to give out strategies and advice for many of the participants, helping him out. However, Kafka was badly injured. However, only for a Kikaru to mock him even though he's injured, she kept on getting more hits, which made Kafka determined and luckily got 0.1% to unlock his power suit. However, while Locus and Tucker were in different parts of the training ground taking out many kaijus as possible. However, even though that blonde rich bitch was hoarding every single kill for herself, making everyone else get less targets. Damn, bitch really can't just try to lower save some kaijus for the rest of us to kill. Tucker said frustratedly. Or against like that will get her killed on the battlefield. Locus said in disappointment. Well, no shit for that, Sherlock. However, when finish off the last of the kaijus, time re-ended. And Kafka got a bit angry in a comedic way, when Kikaru was shot by an unknown human-like kaiju known as Kaiju No. 9. That was able to bring back many of the dead kaijus and yokaijus, which Tucker and Locus were surprised. Tucker knew that she hated that blonde rich bitch doesn't mean that she doesn't deserve to die. Meaning that he'll either have to transform and reveal his secrets or let her die. Meaning has no choice but to do the right thing. His gut was telling him to do it. Meaning he was tired of running the fuck away. Tired of being the blue coward of blue team. He ran directly, especially Kafka. Luckily the drones didn't realize that, didn't know that they weren't aware of the two participants actually being daikaijus. Luckily Kafka was the first one to make it there, only to tell her in his daikaija form this, even in a comedic pleading tone, only for him, only for the undead kaiju to act as a powerful punch. However, with the energy exploded causing the drone to metal function, unable to know what was going on. And luckily Kafka's secret was of him becoming him being a daikaiju. It's not going to be shown. Vice Captain Mina and Sasato were heading towards the location. Kafka was able to kill the undead purple kaiju with one punch. However, luckily the kaiju was obeying to Kafka. But I don't even realize that he was actually commanding the dead kaiju. Well, let's just say, word. However, another kaiju was about to kill. Kikaru was in the back, only for, you could say, Tucker in his daikaija form punched one punch. The creature for its organs and blood splatter all over the place, let's just say, both of them revealed their human face. Which surprised Kikaru. Anyway, let's just say, Ichikawa was about to have a bit of a word with them with both Tucker. And let's just say, Locus also didn't knew that Tucker and Kafka were a kaiju, which made them both shocked. Were you spying on the both of us? I swear to God, you weren't actually spying on me taking a shower. Because I swear to God, Honor, you're just a complete faggot. Tucker said jokingly. Just for once in your life. Locus said irritatedly. Sure, whatever makes you sleep at night. Tucker said jokingly. Sometime later, Tucker, Kafka, Ichikawa and Locus were able to drag Kikaru to the entrance. Let's just say Kafka was still a little bit in the hospital, but luckily for Ichikawa, Tucker and Locus were also there beside him. However, luckily Mina was there, which made a three of them saluted. Only for Kafka not to say anything, but also when Mina left, Kafka decided to salute her even though she left. You're still not that strong enough. Tucker said, don't worry. Even though I might have failed it, there might be a chance and I still might actually be a part of the defense force. Kafka said in determination, burning within his eyes, which the aquamarine soldier couldn't especially. Locus gave off a bit of a small smile. Meanwhile somewhere else, an unrest room in the public restroom in the park. Kaiju No. 9 heard the news that there were 0 casualties in the training. However, until he heard about something about Kaiju No. 8 and 15 which made Kaiju No. 9 intrigued by these 2 new kaijus he had never heard of. Now very interesting. Kaiju No. 8. Kaiju No. 15. Perhaps maybe they could be the ones interfering with my plans. Kaiju No. 9 said, giving off a menacing smile with his teeth. However luckily, he shaped back to normal into his human appearance. Walking on a restroom and was going with the other monster cleaners. While out any of them realizing that he was actually a kaiju in disguise of human flesh and bones. This is the end of part 1 of this new What If. I hope you guys like it. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and subscribe to my channel.